True Story Media.
'Tis the season to cozy up with all your favorite holiday movies and shows.
You coming?
Where?
To the North Pole, of course!
Like A Very Jonas Christmas Movie and Home Alone on Disney+.
Should I burn down the joint? I don't think so.
Then snuggle up with The Polar Express and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Hulu on Disney+.
I think we're all in for a very big Christmas treat.
This season, there's something for everyone with Hulu on Disney+. Bundle subscription required. Terms apply. Visit disneyplus.com/Hulu for details.
Hey guys, it's me Javier. I am trying out this new thing where I interview a Patreon supporter and talk to them about the latest episode. In this case, it's the Matthew Fenner versus Ted Bell episode of the Word of Faith Fellowship. And so I asked on Patreon if anybody wanted to talk with me, and I got a message from Kim. I had no idea what we were going to talk about, but the result is a fascinating conversation. I hope you enjoy it too.
The reason I found this particular episode interesting is the legal angle and the fact that his involvement with the DA and the fact that this was a small town case, because I myself have a background in the criminal system, the criminal justice system, because I actually spent 2 years in jail. But I was actually on the end of being prosecuted, whereas, of course, he's trying to get prosecution. And I had quite an experience during that process. But I was really taken with his frustration and his ongoing frustration in trying to get his case tried and getting justice. And so from that perspective, I was interested in that. And I have also experienced somewhat with the FBI because my ex-husband was tried and convicted for the January 6th case.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were divorced at the time. And he went inside the Capitol.
Oh, wow. Did he really?
Yeah. There's no bearing on my situation. And we were long divorced at that point, but the FBI came to me because they wanted information on him.
Was he pardoned? I guess everybody got pardoned, right?
Yeah, of course he was pardoned. And it was right at the time, it was right after he was convicted and given a sentence. So he never wound up serving any time, which was just gut-wrenching to me. And I went to all the trial and to all the hearings and everything. And so, but having dealt with the FBI in that sense, there was mention of the FBI in this. And I was a little curious because they seemed like a glimmer of hope in all this. And there was mention that the case was kind of being held up at the beginning because the FBI was working on their investigation and that hadn't concluded. Whatever happened with that, do you know?
So that's so interesting that you brought that up. Is this whole FBI involvement has been going on for years, probably since I started covering it 8 years ago, and 8 years have passed, and you know how it is with the FBI. It's like not a lot of information comes out. I did just recently file a new FOIA request with the FBI to see, like, come on, 8 years later, what did you find? And I'm still waiting to hear back. But you're right? Like the FBI should not be influenced by this church. But not to get political, but this church actually has deep ties all the way up to the president of the United States, which is nuts.
Really?
Yes. In Trump's first term in office, his chief of staff. Are you familiar? You remember Mark Meadows?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Mark Meadows was Trump's White House chief of staff back in, his first term. And Mark Meadows before that was a U.S. representative for North Carolina's 11th congressional district. So he was a U.S. representative in the same district as the church, Word of Faith Fellowship. And now I'm not trying to say that Mark Meadows had any ties with the Word of Faith Fellowship, but I know that his wife has been part of like some Word of Faith events, and we all know that Word of Faith Fellowship has very strong ties with North Carolina's political, with at least the Republican Party. They go to all of Trump rallies. So like every time you see a photo of Women for Trump, that's actually the Word of Faith Fellowship ladies that are there. You want to see a picture? Let me show you.
Yeah.
Because this is wild.
Oh
a lot of people
gosh.
don't realize this.
Yeah, I always wonder who those people are because I'm just like, how and why?
I don't like to get political on my podcast.
Right.
And for those of you who are listening and they're like, it's political. This is not getting political. This is like, this is relevant to the story.
It plays
right?
into this, right?
Yeah. So check this out. So we're just Googling women for Trump. Okay. And one of the first pictures that comes up is this picture. And I bet you've seen this before, right?
Yep.
Have you seen this photo before?
Oh yeah.
Well, let me show you. Let me kind of walk you through who these people are.
Yeah.
So this right here is Jane Whaley's daughter in the front. I mean, I'm talking about like for people who cannot see what we're saying.
Brooke Covington,
this is a Trump rally, and the whole front row is Word of Faith Fellowship women. Right back here, I think that's Jane's grandson. It's just the whole clan is right there, and they follow him around the country. Look at them right here. Look at this. Jane Whaley herself getting hugged by President Trump.
Wow.
Yeah. And so people don't realize this, but like, I'm not saying they have like direct access to the White House, but where were we going with this?
Well, we were talking about the FBI and
the FBI. Yeah. So I was like, so basically, you would think that the FBI would be impartial here, but they are, under the Trump administration now. So I don't think that there's any political appetite to go after. Well,
I mean,
conservative churches.
Have continuing contact with the FBI, and they're not told what to investigate and what to do, but their caseload has been prioritized, and they are in a different. So, and I was worried about some of the agents because the agents, they are all relieved of their duties. Anybody who had anything to do with January 6th, a lot of them, and the ones that worked on my ex-husband's case are luckily still there. But as was explained to me by them, that almost everybody in the FBI had some hands on the January 6th case. So it's quite a state there right now because everybody's wondering if they still have a job. And so I think that a case like this, at least they don't know, what cases to work on. They don't know if it's safe to work on a case. And if there's any kind of political influence, then I imagine they probably don't want anything to do with it. So that makes sense.
You brought up your experience in jail and stuff like that. Did you want to talk about that, or
I can? I'm not. I mean, it's something that I am not ashamed of anymore. I've come to terms with it. But I mean, I don't mind talking about it.
Is it relevant to? Because you said that it made you think of this case.
Well, I think because some of the frustrations I had, at least in the fact that the influences that local politics had to play in it, and this was just based on what my attorney told me. But the gist of it was that I was in an abusive marriage. And when I finally, after years of this, had my ex-husband arrested, the next day after he got out of jail, he basically took all the money out of all our accounts and left me with essentially no resources. And I had a daughter who was 3 at the time. And I was unemployed. I'd lost my job, and he refused to let me get another job. I was basically isolated. And I made terrible choices to try to support myself and my daughter. And so I was embezzling from the homeowners association that I was president of. And I'm not a very good criminal, so it didn't take long before I was caught. And I never tried to argue that I was innocent. I mean, I was kind of relieved when it happened. But I knew I should be punished, and I expected to be punished, but I didn't expect that they wanted to serve me with, I think the total that I embezzled came out to about $13,000. But they wanted me to serve, I think they were trying to get me to take a plea deal of 18 months, And that just seems so incredibly long to me. And in the meantime, I had spent different stints of time in jail because they kept bringing more charges, most of them bogus, but they were trying to pressure me into taking a plea deal. And so even those small stints of time, the most being about 30 days, was just incredibly long and incredibly difficult because I was away from my daughter. And in the meantime, my abusive ex-husband has custody of my daughter. And so that was even more agonizing for me. But and some of the things that happened in jail were just horrendous anyway. Some of my experiences, wow. I was a soccer mom and PTA president and everything else, and here I go to jail. So it was quite an experience, and I just kept holding out, trying to get the Commonwealth attorney to work with me and work with my attorney. And so it was 14 months in between. But what was going on is that the Commonwealth attorney that was prosecuting my case, he was an assistant Commonwealth attorney, but he was running for a judgeship in a neighboring county. This is what my attorney explained to me. And the platform he was running under was being harsh on white-collar crime. And because apparently that was a big issue in that county. And so my case was kind of being used as an example. And I mean, it was all over the media. They couldn't get enough of it. And the facts were all wrong in the paper, but there's nothing you could do about that because I print a retraction that small in the paper the next day. So it was pointless to try to fight that. So I kept trying to, I just was in denial about what they were trying to do to me. And I kept trying, but the politics and it was all about who had the best attorney. And I didn't have a good attorney. I mean, I had the court-appointed attorney. He was a good guy, but, I was just another case. And
right. And they're overwhelmed anyway, right?
Yeah. And I was just fighting this uphill battle. I mean, he really didn't want to see me go to jail. And what I figured out too is that when I got in the courtroom in front of this judge, I mean, it was baffling because I decided to do a bench trial. So where the judge, tries me or gives me a sentence, because I figured if I could explain why I did what I did and try to get, some sympathy or some understanding of what my mind thought, or my mind process was then, that maybe he would be a little bit more lenient based on the fact that I had no real criminal history, anything like that. They said, well, the base would be about 6 months, the lowest end, and you can veer off of that or go up to 3 years. And he sentenced me to 2 years, which was way off the midpoint and almost at the high point. And I was not prepared for that. I was in total shock. And my lawyer hadn't prepared me for that either. He thought I would walk out with probation. And most of the people did too after I testified. And I had my pastor come testify. I had, my boss at the time, because I was working at this little shop that would take me in, a ham shop, like ham cafe. And it was completely devastating to me. And what was told to me, because I made a friend in jail who had the same crime, same judge, and got the same sentence, but she was a repeat offender. And she had committed embezzlement before. And she still got the same sentence as I did. And so that seemed kind of not fair. And what was told to me, now that was lore, so I don't know how true it was, but that the judge's mother had been a victim of embezzlement. And so that kind of made it personal to him. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it just seemed, it was pretty harsh. And it's hard because I hear in the media stories about people embezzling millions of dollars and getting virtually no jail time, if any. And it kind of ruined my life. I mean, not only am I a felon, but I lost custody of my daughter, and my ex-husband has custody of her now. And when I was reading up on some of the stories about the church, about Faith Fellowship, that they, are separating mothers from their children. And there was one woman who was talking about how her child was separated from her and how they were brainwashing her child. And she pursued custody, and then just gave up. And that's exactly what happened to me with my daughter, is that my ex-husband just brainwashed her to be scared of me. And then you fight and you give up. And I empathized with her completely, because it's just a horrific battle. And the fact that the church was doing that to these people is just, wow, So So
Yeah, but I could
don't know.
see how this story resonated with you because, like you said, when you're in the legal system, sometimes when it comes down to sentencing, it's all on, it depends on which judge you have and what kind of experiences do they have or their their worldview or whatever. It's kind of like a crapshoot, right? And it seems like you got a harsher sentence, and we all know that white collar offenders get sentenced a lot less harshly than other offenders, but in this case you got the harsh end of things. And then it also, I could see how the story resonated with you because a lot of people forget that district attorneys are politicians.
Oh yeah.
They have to run for office, and sometimes certain cases are flagship cases for them, right? And so it sounded like you just happened to fit
Right.
the case that they wanted to prosecute. And
Yeah.
and then in this case, Ted Bell, he's trying to appeal to rural North Carolina, his district. The Word of Faith Fellowship, has 700 plus members, and they usually all vote the same way, right? And so you could kind of see how the politics plays a part, even though Ted Bell, just to make it clear, Ted Bell has no real affiliation with the church. Like he's actually spoken out against the church at some point. I don't think he's a member. I'm not trying to say that, but
Yeah.
you could see how he could be influenced, right?
Well, I was wondering about that because it does talk about the fact that he's the one that actually got the indictments that moved the case forward. So then what was his motivation for kind of trying to
I
slow things
think
down?
that at that point in time, it was so overwhelming and it hit a fever pitch that it was almost like hard to ignore, the case. I don't think that this is his dream case or the case that he would like to bring forward, right?
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, according to Matthew Fenner, it seems like he's asked him repeatedly to drop the charges. It would be a lot easier for Ted Bell if Matthew
Right.
Fenner just went away.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I live in Virginia, so in Southern Virginia, and I'm a Christian. I go to church, and I'm in definitely a more modern church, but there are churches in my denomination that are in back of the woods areas, and they definitely, I don't see them going to these kinds of extremes, but much more conservative and much more outspoken against homosexuality and things like that, so I can kind of relate to some of these issues and some of this conservative mindset and this evangelical mindset of Christianity. So that kind of struck a chord with me as well. I mean, my church is great. They stood by me when I went to jail, and I don't think I could have survived jail had it not been for them. But this is definitely, yeah. It struck a chord with me on many levels, definitely.
It's finally cold outside. We're making holiday plans. And this is the time of year that I just need my wardrobe to work, to look sharp, to feel good, and something that I'll actually reach for in the closet. Lately, my go-to wardrobe is from Quince. Quince has what I need, like Mongolian cashmere sweaters for about $50. Who knew I needed that? But it's $50. You normally would drop $200 or more for the same type of sweater. And wool coats that hold up to daily wear and still look pretty sharp. For me, the most important thing is it needs to fit. And their denim fits right and it feels good. Same as the pants and the chinos. The outerwears are solid. The down jackets, the wool, the leather coats. I could go on and on. But all of this cozy stuff is going to keep you warm in the cold. So here's the model that I could get behind because Quince partners directly with trusted factories. They have high standards, real craftsmanship. Plus, they cut out the middleman and the markups. So you get premium quality about half the cost. And here's a quick personal note. The down jacket that I just picked up is getting me through this winter cold weather. It looks good, it keeps me warm, and it doesn't cost a fortune. As the holidays hit, that's the piece I keep reaching for. And yes, Quince has gifts covered beyond clothing too. They got home, bath, kitchen, and travel. So get your wardrobe sorted and your gift list handled with Quince. Don't wait. Go to quince.com/pretendpod for free shipping on your order and a 365-day return. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/pretendpod. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/pretendpod. In this economy, let's not let big wireless and your overpriced phone bill suck the joy out of the holiday seasons. Because right now, all of Mint Mobile's unlimited plans are 50% off. You can get 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. They say it's their best deal of the year. Oh, and don't worry, you can bring your phone and your number over to Mint. There's no contracts, no nonsense. I recently started using Mint Mobile and I was super impressed by the signal that I get at my house. What a concept, right? For a long time, the only way I could make a call at home was with Wi-Fi. And now with Mint Mobile, I get a signal. Plus, it's a lot more affordable. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/pretend. That's mintmobile.com/pretend. Limited time offer, upfront payments of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plans. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extras. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes. May slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
So one thing that we didn't talk about in the episode, which I think is really interesting, is that a lot of some of the people that Matthew Fenner said that attacked him that day some of them have left the church, right? Some of them have like deprogrammed in a sense. And what do you do in that situation? That's what fascinates me about this case. It's like, okay, so back then these people may have been involved in this beating, right? Where they kind of held him hostage and beat him. But 8 years have passed. Some of them have probably left the church. Some of them have gotten deprogrammed. It's like, are they still culpable, right? Like now
Right.
that, like that they're not in that mindset. I think that's such an interesting dilemma. So, I mean, it would be wrong to like not talk about how you're doing now, because it seems like you're in a better place, at least professionally, right? You have a job. Like, how are things now for you?
They're much better. I have a 27-year-old daughter, and my other daughter is 17. I don't get to speak to my other daughter. She chose not to speak to me again. And that's probably the biggest heartbreak and the biggest casualty of all of this. And, I have struggled with the tag of the label of a felon. I was employed for many years. I was blessed to have found a job where the company owner, it was a small company, and they had an owner who knew that I was a felon, and I explained to her what happened, and she gave me a chance, and I worked, gave it everything I had to show her that it was right to give me a chance. But then I lost that job just because they eliminated my position. I work in marketing, and I have struggled to find a job after that. It took me a year, but I finally found another job. I've been here a few months, but I was released from jail in 2017. So it's been a while. I paid my restitution. On top of everything else, I pay child support, which has been a real challenge. And they don't care that you're in jail when you pay child support. So that accrued and accrued and accrued. And by the time I got out of jail, I had a lot of arrears in child support. So I'd lost my driver's license. But I had a phenomenal member from the church that kind of took me in, and I was able to work and save and, get my driver's license restored, and then eventually get my own vehicle. And, it's just kind of been one hurdle after another. But I finally paid the restitution off as well. So I'm free and clear of that. And it's not that I didn't want to either. I wanted to. I mean, it's definitely something that I wanted to do. I felt horrible about what I did, and it was the wrong choice. What I should have done is ask the church for help, for example. But I was in a real survivor's mentality and taking care of myself kind of mode, and it's hard to explain, but I was also ashamed that I was in that place. But I have a great relationship with my oldest daughter, and she was probably the one impacted the most because I was the president of her PTA in high school, and she was 17 when this happened. So, she was embarrassed. It was all over the paper. It was on the news. The investigator that investigated the case and then came, he served a search warrant on my house, which was to me so bizarre because I saw them coming, and it's like 8 police vehicles and a evidence truck, panel truck, and all this coming to my house. And I saw them coming, and I thought, well, somebody's getting busted for drugs or weapons or something, I was like, wow. And then they came to my door, and I was like, what? It's like, what is happening? But he called the news and told them he was serving the search warrant. So, and I'm at that point living in this little town north of where I live now. And this was big news, and they were interviewing my neighbors and everything else as I'm getting let out in handcuffs. And it's just, and it was all just a digital crime. Everything was the local bank. I didn't try to cover my tracks or anything. I just figured nobody was interested in the homeowner, so nobody would know. So yeah, my daughter, but she's done really well, and she's come a long way. She just got married, and we're really close. So that's
good.
A blessing. Yeah. And the church is.
And it sounds like, and this is what we want out of people who have been, prosecuted for felonies, right? We want them to have a way out. I don't think a lot of people think about that, right? Like when you make a mistake or you commit a crime, you serve your time, you pay restitution. That's what you want, right? People to have a second chance and not do the crime again. And so this is great to hear that you've come out of this and are doing well on the other side. And I know that like the damage that has caused your relationship with your daughter, and it's probably been extra. It's hard to get a job in this economy, right? But it's even harder when you're a felon, right? And so, and so your life is you're always gonna be paying that consequence. But it sounds like you've been doing the right thing. So. That's awesome.
As soon as I got out, my pastor was contacted by like a local faith-based organization advocacy group, and they asked me to be their spokesperson because they were on a platform of criminal justice reform. So I got right out there, and I was speaking on the courthouse steps. I was speaking to city council, I was speaking to anybody who would listen about just the tremendous amount of need there is for criminal justice reform in the jail, primarily in the jail, because they're just I've never talked about some of the horrible things that happened to me in jail, but there are a lot of issues in there, and just some of the experiences were unbelievable. And I was in there primarily, I would say 98% of the people in there are for drugs or drug-related crimes. But and they don't really know better, and they don't know a different life. But I had the platform to do it, so I spoke out, and I spoke to churches, to anybody who would listen. They gave me a platform to do it, so I did.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did come out of it, and it's going to be a challenging road, both mentally, like trying to unpack all the stuff that you've been through in jail, all the stuff that you've been through with your family. But it sounds like you're moving in the right direction.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how did you discover Pretend? Like, how did we connect?
Well,
I don't even know.
I developed an affinity for any kind of podcast that has to do with scammers or anything to do with con people, con artists, that type of thing. And so when I just searched for podcasts about scams, that you came up. And I have to tell you that even though I'm not that old, one of the podcasts I listened to was the AARP podcast about scams.
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, then you bust old Frank Abagnale. And I was like, what? No way. Because that dude was all over the AARP podcast.
Yep.
And I thought, but he was always kind of larger than life. He would come on there at the end of these little scam stories, and he would be like, well, that reminds me of the time that I had blah, blah, blah. And
oh, Frank.
then I heard your series on him, and I was like, what? You got to be kidding me, this guy. So yeah,
that's like my favorite party trick, is going to parties and like telling people the Frank Abagnale story, and they're like, what? No way.
Yeah, but I've listened to every episode from season 1 on up.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
that's awesome. Well, I
yeah.
appreciate it. I'm glad. And, for me, it's just like a case study into white collar crime or deception. It's like the psychology of the whole thing. So for me, I learn every time I do an episode. So
Yeah,
I
it was
appreciate
great.
it.
I love it. So keep on doing
And
it.
I'm trying to do this, by the way, listeners, I'm trying to do this for every episode. We'll see if I can keep it up, but I'm going to try to do this for every episode.
Well-
I'm going to have a Patreon listener or anybody that wants to discuss the episode. We'll see. And this was such a great conversation. Like, this was not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you ever want to talk again, I'm always down for it. So I appreciate the time.
All right. So, Kim, thank you so much. This was a fascinating conversation. If you want to participate in this series, just shoot me an email at javier@pretendradio.org or shoot me a message on Patreon. For my Apple Podcast Pretend Plus listeners, we're just going to go on the honor system. So if you are listening to this and you want to take part in these reaction episodes, shoot me an email at javier@pretendradio.org and maybe we'll have you on the show. I hope all of you listening have a wonderful holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, the whole bit.